All right, welcome to the Twitter Files Part 2 and 3 summary. So I didn't do 2 by itself when it came out because I already had another video the same day and I didn't feel like doing another one. And there was a Part 3, so I just decided to do them together. So without further ado, I'm going to try to do this without bias and without, reading these word for word, just kind of summarize everything to get, what they're saying. The first part was okay. The second part is where all the good stuff is. The third part is a lot more of I don't even know what to consider. It's just kind of pointless. So the third part's a nothing burger, but we'll get to that. So part two, this is where it gets kind of interesting. So they talk about in this one essentially this kind of thing right here. This screen is something that you would see if you were part of whatever team would do the I guess like the moderation for Twitter, we would call it. So you'll see that they're on a trends blacklist, which would mean that they can't trend. So essentially, no matter how good they did, no matter how well their tweets went, they would not trend because they're on that blacklist. This one, same kind of thing. They were on notification spike search blacklist. So you could not search for this guy, Dan Bongino. I've heard of the show, I've never watched it. But again, you wouldn't be able to search for this person because he's on a search blacklist, right? And these aren't things that you would see unless you were at the company doing this stuff, right? In this case, Charlie Kirk, he also had a do not amplify, so they will not allow him to be. I guess I don't know specifically what that would do. My guess is it's just like, yeah, they're not going to let that person. The algorithm's basically going to count them out. Essentially, is what that would sound like. But basically, yeah, they did this to a lot of these guys. They're only showing conservative guys here, I guess. I don't know if that's because, well, actually, I don't know if this guy's conservative or not, but this was this was during the COVID time, and he was saying that there was a lot of stuff that didn't add up, and so they were basically preventing that from trending. They didn't want people to see what other doctors were saying. They wanted to push their own narrative, basically, is what that looks like anyway. So that's basically what that is. So they had a couple teams here, is what they're talking about. They called these things visibility filtering. So, a lot of people on the right would say that there was something called shadow banning going on, where basically, um, you wouldn't get banned from the platform, but they would pretty much suppress all of your content because they didn't want anybody to see it, right? And it turns out they were absolutely 100% correct. It was, at least on Twitter anyway. They say that, and this is what it is. They didn't call it shadow banning. In fact, I remember Vijaya Gotti being on a podcast with her and, the CEO at the time, Jack Dorsey, with I was on Joe Rogan's podcast with Tim Pool, and I remember them saying that, yeah, we don't do this type of thing. We don't do that. It's all an algorithm. It's all organic. It turns out no, it's not. It's the visibility filtering is what they call it. And I guess they could say they don't shadow ban because they didn't call it that. They called it something else. But anyway, they say it's a very powerful tool, is what one of the senior employees at Twitter, I don't know if they're still there or not, but they say it's a powerful tool, which, yeah, it is. You get to basically limit what people see, which is very similar to, like, when people talk about the Illuminati, this is the Twitterati. That's what that is. They're saying, yeah, we're going to not let you see what you want to see or what, everybody actually thinks is correct. And this kind of goes into another thing that I was thinking about. Like, I would always get, like, I don't care what people do with themselves, right? But I was never interested in anything transgender related, but I would see that all the time. You'd get that all the time, even if you didn't look for it. And it's like, why? Because some things seem like they were getting pushed on purpose. So it's things like that this kind of justifies it all and says, yeah, they were in fact trying to moderate and trying to push an agenda of their own. And I mean, there you go. We control visibility quite a bit, is what the Twitter employees were saying. And they have two teams. So the first team is the Strategic Response Team, Global Escalation Team. It handles up to 200 cases a day, right? So they're doing a lot of moderation. And this was a team that had rules, okay? Like, they had like a guideline set, is what they were saying. The other team, which was basically Vijaya Gotti, Yoel Roth, Jack Dorsey, Parag Agrawal, other higher mucky mucks in the group. Those were the people that were in this other group called the Site Integration Policy and Policy Escalation Support. They were basically allowed to just do all this stuff with no repercussions, no rules. They just did it off the fly, off the cuff, whatever they wanted to do. They just did it, right? And you'd actually get stuff like this if you were looking at a page. I would say, "Do not take action on users without telling the SIT PES team." And yeah, they put them on a trends blacklist, and you'd get a notification if there was a spike on their stuff, I guess. And they called it a high-profile account because it was getting a lot of attention. Now, I'm familiar with Libs of TikTok more than the other ones because I don't think you could be on a lot of places without seeing Libs of TikTok stuff. My dog's whining. If you don't see, you'd have to be in a hole not to have seen some of their content. And the thing about them is I never understood why they would get blocked or banned because they weren't actually doing anything themselves. They were basically taking content from TikTok and giving it a bigger voice on Twitter because they were just saying, yeah, this is basically what these people are saying. They take opinions they don't agree with, they would take like the extremes of it, and they would repost it, and that was it. That's all they did. It's not like they were saying anything one way or the other about it. They were just posting the videos that they were already posted on TikTok. They were already there, so they're not doing anything other than reposting a thing. With no context, no words, nothing. They just repost it. So I don't see how that's hateful content. And as it turns out, Twitter didn't think it was hateful content either. They just didn't like the fact that Libs of TikTok was looked at by conservatives, people on the right, and seen as, yeah, we don't want people to see the crazy things that are going on, the extremes. We don't want people to see that. And that's basically why they were blocking him. And it says in this memo here that, yeah, they haven't actually done anything wrong. They haven't directly engaged in any behavior to violate the hateful conduct policy or anything. So they're just banning him because, pretty much, is what that says. And then the other interesting thing about that was when the owner of that account was actually doxxed, they had posts that had 10,000 likes or more and had their address and everything. Those tweets weren't taken down, which were absolutely violations of their conducts and their rules, their policies, but they didn't do anything about that. So there, again, is that bias coming in from the company saying, yeah, we're going to stop you from doing this thing that we don't like, but when people do something to you that you don't like, and that's actually a clear violation of the rules, we're not going to do anything about it, right? There was a very clear violation going on there that they didn't do anything about whatsoever. So that pretty much is it. They also had Slack channel messages here. These I don't see a whole lot of. There's not a whole lot in here. There's kind of like a hidden gem in here. So if you're not familiar with Slack channels are basically like Discord but for companies. They're just big company chat channels essentially. So what you have here is Yoel Roth asking about ways to solve the problems of under-enforcing their policies, which I think they were over-enforcing their policies in most cases, well, in some cases, and under-enforcing in others. So you can't look at that and automatically, from the words, assume it means, oh, the left or the right. So I'm not going to, because in the next part of this, I'm not going to do that either. I'm just going to look at the words for what they are. But yeah, he was talking about messing with the policies. And then he also talks in here about how he's looking for ways to support non-removal policies basically ways to ban people without banning them. That's what he was talking about here. And that's the whole visibility filtering thing that they had going on. Now, what's interesting about that is Jack Dorsey also knew about that. He was on the board. He was on board with implementing this for civic integrity. And that's interesting because he was one of the guys that was talking to Congress and saying, again, that they didn't do that kind of stuff. Yet, here's proof that it's not necessarily proof that because one person said it, I guess you could say that's hearsay. Hearsay is still admissible in a lot of cases, but the fact is he's saying that, yeah, I think he's on board and we should do whatever, although Jack Dorsey went to Congress and testified and said, yeah, we don't do that kind of stuff. We don't do that. It's all fair and equal. It's all even across the board. He said that to Congress. He said it to Joe Rogan. He said it to everybody. That is what he said, and it is clearly a lie. So these people cannot be trusted, as it turns out. So that's part two. To sum that all up, basically, they had tools to shadow ban or visibility filter people, and they were using them frequently. In most cases, it would seem like they were using against the right, but I can't see everything, so we only can see what we were given here. This could be more even than it looks, but we don't know because we only got this. So moving on. Part three. So part three is going to talk a lot about January 6th. I don't really want to go into January 6th because honestly, I don't care about January 6th. Like I think most people don't actually care about January 6th. January 6th is used by the left as a way to justify whatever, basically just to give themselves some talking points. The right doesn't really care about January 6th because they all say that, yeah, it shouldn't have happened. It was a riot, and yeah, they shouldn't have done it. Like that's the way it comes out. I don't see what the difference is, but whatever, it's a talking point. So I don't care about that, but this whole part is highly focused around that, and it's highly focused around the reasonings for banning certain people, specifically Donald Trump. So the first several tweets, I guess, have some stuff in here that it's redacted who this is from, but it's saying that they know it would be the first head of state they've ever actually banned, which was against their policies to ban a head of state. And they were talking in this next part here about, we could potentially use some kind of ban evasion policy as reasoning to ban this person, but we don't want to ban, at POTUS and at White House because they're head of state accounts. So those accounts change hands. Like it's just an account for like a title. Like if you're the CEO and you get fired, there's still that position. The next person that comes in as the CEO it's like you don't want to muddy the waters of the office, right? You just want to have the name is there, and that's it. Like I could go into details on how that works. It doesn't matter. The point is they were just looking for ways to ban people after they were out of that particular office, and they were looking at ways of banning Donald Trump specifically because he didn't use the at POTUS and the at White House account. He used his own at Donald J. Trump account, I believe it was. And that they decided, we could ban that because it's not one of these accounts. So they're just looking for ways to do it. So this is where it gets kind of weird. There's another person here, redacted name, talking to, looks like Vijaya Gotti, about, they're having a research team put together some language and figure out how they can ban Donald Trump again and people that talk about stuff that they don't agree with politically. So again, basically saying like, okay, we think that they're trying to have coded messages about starting, riots and whatnot. Whatever. Again, I go back to what I said previously. I look at the actual words. I don't try to interpret code from words. Like when he says march peacefully, I assume that means march peacefully because there have been lots of peaceful marches. That's the way it is. I don't look at it as anything beyond that. So this trying to find coded messages, I think, is just more of the bias and them trying to find ways to come up with reasons to ban people. That's basically it, which is really what they've repeatedly done throughout this whole process here. The bulk of the internal debate leading to Trump's ban took place in those January days, and so, they're just trying to find ways, is what they're saying. They have more stuff here. So stuff from Roth here. This is a little bit interesting. This is kind of gross right here, honestly. So this is Twitter is a private company is talking with the FBI and other 3-letter agencies, right? So he's having a conversation here, Yoel Roth in the Slack channel, saying that, very boring business meeting today that's definitely not about Trump, and it's definitely not meeting with the FBI, right? Which, I mean, it's obviously sarcasm. It's hard to read. I know it's text, but that's what he's saying. He's got a meeting with the FBI talking about Donald Trump, and that is when you think about this, like I don't want to say like, don't look at this as a one-time thing, right? As Twitter's the only one that did this, because when you look at this Twitter, when you look at the usage, Twitter only gets about 450 million active users per month, I think is what it is. And that was as of like Q2 of 2022. Who knows what it is right now? And you look at other social media platforms, like, for example, Facebook and YouTube, those are the top two. Facebook's the top. They get well over 2,000 active users per month. I think somewhere like 2,400, and YouTube's around 2,000. With that many active users, do you really think that the FBI is only going to talk to Twitter? Like, you don't think that they would go and talk to the most active platforms? So the fact that the FBI and Department of Justice, I don't know, actually, I don't know the Department of Justice, is FBI, I can't remember. They talk about them in here. But the fact that so many agencies in the government are talking to this social media platform, which is like at the time like the 14th most used, if you think they aren't talking to the rest, if you think they aren't involved, come on, you're just really ignoring the realities here. They have to be talking to the other ones. They have to be. Twitter's not that incredible unless Twitter was the only one willing to work with them. But I'm pretty sure we've actually already seen, actually, it's already been admitted by Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg that they worked with the FBI on censoring stories like the laptop, which I'm also tired of talking about. But yes, that is a 100% true thing. And that's why this is important. It's not because of, this one time him having this one meeting about January 6th. It's because they've been doing this and they continue to do this. And we'll see a little more of that here, where essentially they talk about there's very important tweeters that they're going to continue censoring, blah, blah, blah. And they have been doing it. They talk about how they've been doing it since October. And there's some, October 9th here, they have some people talking about rigged tweets. And I will give them credit here, or rigged election tweets. And I will give them some credit here because Yoel Roth, essentially somebody asked, like, hey, is this a violation of Twitter's policies? Because of this tweet that Donald Trump at the time put out, which was, Ohio voters getting wrong absentee ballots out of control, rigged election, blah. Okay, cool, whatever. He said that. Somebody in the team wanted to, say that was a violation and get rid of the tweet. And Yoel Roth was like, well, according to this news source, it's true. And I don't know if he's saying that because, he's trying to avoid getting yelled at or avoid negative press or something. They're trying to keep things in the dark. And I think that's more of the case here. So I'll give them a little bit of credit for being honest with this. But also, the weird thing is it's one article. They're using one article as a basis for things. And we'll see that again down here, where their policy director, Nick Pickles, asked if Twitter detects misinformation through machine learning, which is just, like AI looking through different articles and stuff. Human review, which obviously is humans reviewing it, and partnerships with outside experts. The employee asks, I know that it's been a slippery process, not sure if we want a public explanation to hang on that. So they're basically saying, like, yeah, we're going to say that we detect misinformation through these three branches. I don't actually see a huge problem with that. I mean, I do, in fact, the human review. The machine learning could be good or bad. It really depends. I don't think any of those really should be done in the first place. I guess I do see a problem with it. I see a problem that there should be no censoring. Just let people say what they're going to say, and other people are going to argue with them and debate and go back and forth. And that's how you get the free market of good ideas, right? You need to be able to talk about stuff. So in this case, yeah, Nick Pickles comes back and says, can we just say partnerships, which is interesting. And then he says he's not sure we describe the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, as experts or some non-government organizations that aren't academic. So apparently they well, that's just a weird statement, honestly, that they're not considering the FBI or Department of Homeland Security as experts on information. I guess that's fair. And non-government organizations that aren't academic. So I guess what he's saying there is that all academic institutions must be experts. Makes sense. All right, here's more stuff about the Biden laptop, which I said I'm already tired of. But basically, they censored that, and they continue to censor it based on, if you look through this, what they were, well, this was good from the government side of things, saying that they weren't going to give them any information. They didn't have any information, which they probably had more information. They just weren't going to give that information because of you don't give out every piece of information. That's the way the government works. Some things are classified for a reason, and they keep them classified until they're ready to be released. That's all there is to it. Generally, it's for public health and safety, but you never know, and it's really hard to say on most things. There's so many different caveats and classifications, and there's instructions you can read online about it. It's not classified to read about security classifications if you wanted to find out about it. More Slacker stuff here about. So this is where it gets kind of stupid and juvenile from Matt Taibbi here. So he'll talk about how Yoel Roth ghosted some FBI meetings and stuff. It's not abnormal to not show up to a meeting, to send like other people to a meeting in your place because you have other stuff going on. It's completely normal for people that have a lot of meetings all day. They're going to eventually be like, yeah, I can't make that meeting. It happens all the time. It's not that weird. So we'll just move on past that. This one's kind of weird. This is what I was talking about earlier. So they would basically have this article or this post from this case was John Basham, who was a former let's see, what was he? I can't remember what he was. A counselor from Indiana counselor. That's what he was, from Tippecanoe County. But he posted a thing here saying that these ballots, between 2 and 25% of them were being rejected for errors, and then that was found as misinformation because of one article, which oddly the FBI had some information on that, which I think is strange. And the FBI's information allegedly here was that it was proven to be false because of PolitiFact. PolitiFact is not necessarily an authoritative source, and again, you got to look at more than one thing. And no, just don't censor anything. Just don't censor anybody. Let people say what they're going to say, and that's all there is to it. People are going to have to realize that everything is not true on the internet. Crazy as that might seem, you're going to find stuff that's not true, and you're going to have to figure out how to sort out what is not true and what is true. And the only way to do that is to expose yourself to it and learn. That's all there is to it. We can't sugarcoat and fancy and not fancy, but make everything soft and put foam on every corner and edge to prevent people from bumping their heads. Eventually, you're going to get smacked in the face with fake news, and you're going to have to figure out how to break through it. That's all there is. That's all there is to it. You just have to learn. That's all. So that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot of other stuff going on. His last statement here is that we didn't see a lot of reference to moderation requests from the Trump campaign, the White House, or Republicans generally. But they may exist. They just didn't see any. They only saw it from the left, as it turns out. So I believe Matt Taibbi has definite bias, and that's fine. He can have his bias. He may be telling the truth here. I don't know. Again, we only know what we see here. So him saying that they didn't see anything from the right and they only saw it from the left, well, that is what it is. You can take him for his word on it, or you don't necessarily have to. It's up to you. But a lot of this is very, very suspicious, and this whole thing is basically just a continuation of part two, where they're saying that, yeah, we were able to shadow ban people, and that's basically what they were doing, and this kind of gives a little bit more on their process for it. So that pretty much covers the whole part two and part three. Thanks for watching. I tried to keep it as short as I could. If I missed something, by all means, throw it down in the comments so we can all discuss it, and it doesn't mean a big favor when you like, comment, and subscribe. And hey, share this video around as well, because that helps me out too a lot. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And until the next time, try not to die.